I live in a neighborhood where the lawns are perfect, the mailboxes match, and the gossip travels faster than Wi-Fi. The HOA runs everything, and the queen of that kingdom is Karen Brooks, a woman who believes power comes from a clipboard and a whistle. It started one Saturday morning when I found my neighbor Todd's SUV parked right on my front lawn, mud, tire tracks, and crushed sprinkler heads everywhere. When I knocked on his door, he just shrugged and said, "It's just grass, man." By Monday, I had a bright pink envelope on my door. Violation notice, lawn damage. According to the HOA, I had failed to maintain my lawn's visual integrity. No mention of Todd. No mention of the SUV. That was my first laugh of the week. The second came when I realized Karen herself had a plastic flamingo in her yard, something strictly banned by the bylaws she wrote. That night I started taking photos of Todd's SUV, of Karen's flamingo, of every tiny contradiction I could find. I made a folder on my laptop labeled Operation HOA. I didn't know it yet, but that single act of pettiness would turn into the biggest neighborhood showdown this HOA had ever seen. And the best part? I was going to win every inch of my lawn back, one documented violation at a time. 3 days later I got another letter, this time on thick paper with the HOA's eagle logo. Dear Mr. Parker, you are in violation of Article 3, Section 7. Failure to maintain community landscaping standards. You have 10 days to correct this issue or face a $150 fine. I couldn't believe it. They were fining me for the damage Todd caused. I went to the HOA office. A beige shed behind the clubhouse that smelled like burnt coffee and ego. Karen was there, typing something furiously on her laptop. "Karen," I said calmly, "Todd parked on my lawn. I sent photos." She looked up with that fake polite smile. "We don't get involved in neighbor disputes, Mr. Parker." "So you find the victim?" Karen tilted her head. "Rules are rules." I stared at her flamingo pin on her blouse. The irony almost made me laugh again. That night, I sent an email to the HOA board with time-stamped photos, explaining the situation. Todd's SUV, the tire marks, the timestamps, it was all there. I CC'd Karen for fun. No reply. But the next morning Todd's SUV was still there, proudly parked like it owned the place. That's when I decided to go full petty. I called the city's zoning department, got the municipal parking regulations, and learned something magical. Parking on any portion of another person's lawn without consent was subject to towing, at the vehicle owner's expense. Game on. The next weekend Todd did it again. Only this time he added a folding chair next to his SUV like he was camping on my grass. I took photos. Different angles. Perfect lighting. I even measured the tire width with a ruler for documentation. Then I called the city's code enforcement line and submitted a lawn obstruction complaint. The lady on the phone said, "We'll send someone Monday." Monday came and so did a tow truck, beautiful and loud like justice on 4 wheels. I stood at my window sipping coffee as the driver hooked up Todd's SUV. Todd ran out barefoot, waving his arms. "Hey, that's my car." The tow guy just pointed to the order. Private property violation. City Code November 4th, 22. Todd turned to me furious. "You called them." I smiled. "No, Todd. The law did." He stormed back inside while I admired my lawn returning to freedom. For the first time in weeks it looked peaceful. That evening Karen showed up at my door. Clipboard in hand, flamingo pin glistening like a badge of nonsense. "Mr. Parker," she said, "towing vehicles without HOA approval is prohibited." I crossed my arms. Karen, city laws outrank HOA rules. Section November 4th, 22. Would you like a copy? She froze, speechless for the first time. That's when I knew. The HOA might write the rules, but I could read them better. The next morning, I woke up to 3 new violation notices taped to my door. Improper lawn edging. Mailbox paint fading. Unapproved decorative rock. It was like a comedy sketch. I laughed so hard I scared my cat. But I also knew what was happening. Karen was retaliating. She couldn't find me for the tow, so she was creating fake issues instead. So I played along. I repainted my mailbox black, the same color as hers. Re-edged the lawn perfectly. Then I emailed her photos of every correction with the subject line, "Perfection report. Compliance achieved." No reply. 2 days later I found Todd sitting in his driveway glaring at me. You got my car impounded. You're gonna regret this. Only if I park on your grass, I said. Karen soon called an emergency HOA board meeting to discuss my behavior. Oh, I attended with printed photos, emails, and a copy of every violation she ignored from other neighbors. Half the room laughed when I pointed out her illegal pink flamingo. She tried to claim it was temporary art. The board meeting ended with her red-faced and speechless, but I knew she wouldn't stop there. I just didn't realize she'd soon dig her own grave with the very rulebook she worshipped. After the meeting, I went all in. Every evening, I took a stroll with my phone camera. If Karen fined me for imaginary problems, I'd find her real ones. That's when I discovered something huge. Karen's backyard had an unapproved storage shed. According to HOA bylaws, any external structure required board approval. Hers didn't have it. I pulled public permit data. No record. No approval. Bingo. I added everything to my HO shenanigans. Folder photos, timestamps, even her own signature on the bylaw form that said, no unapproved structures. Meanwhile, Todd's SUV remained at the impound lot. He refused to pay the release fee. The city wasn't budging. Every time I mowed my lawn, I made sure to wave at him. One evening, Karen sent another letter accusing me of harassment. I framed it and hung it in my garage like a trophy. At this point, I had more evidence than a crime documentary. Then came the final push. A community-wide email Karen accidentally sent to everyone. In it, she called me a disruptive influence and said she was monitoring me. Within an hour, 3 other neighbors replied, all fed up with her too. That's when the alliance was born. We called ourselves the Lawn Resistance. And Karen had no idea what was coming. When the next HOA meeting rolled around, we came prepared. I brought a binder. Steve from down the street brought cookies. Linda from 2 houses over brought receipts. Literal receipts showing Karen had used HOA funds to buy office decor that included her flamingo collection. The room was packed. Even Todd showed up, arms crossed, pretending to care. Karen began, we're here to address ongoing disruptions caused by Mr. Parker. I smiled. Actually, I'd like to address the board first. I opened my binder and began projecting photos on the clubhouse TV. Karen's shed, Karen's flamingos, Karen's unauthorized mailbox. Gasps echoed around the room. According to Article 4, Section 2, I read, all external structures require approval. Care to explain, Karen? Her face turned the color of a stop sign. Then Linda dropped her receipts, showing HOA money used for Karen's decorations. By the time I was done, even Todd looked impressed. The board voted to suspend Karen pending investigation. The HOA meeting ended with polite applause, and me walking home, finally feeling the sweet victory of a well-kept lawn. But the story wasn't over. Karen wasn't the kind of woman to surrender quietly, and her next move would make the neighborhood headlines. For a few glorious days, peace returned to Maple Ridge. The air smelled like victory and fresh-cut grass. Even Todd started mowing his own lawn again, probably out of fear I'd call the city on him. But like a weed that refuses to die, Karen came back. The HOA board's investigation only lasted a week. She claimed she'd been unjustly targeted by online misinformation. In other words, she spun her own downfall into a redemption arc. Her first order of business? Reinstating every fine I'd ever received. She even backdated one. Then she started sending courtesy visits. I'd see her marching up my driveway with her clipboard like a mall cop on a mission. Mr. Parker, she said one morning, your lawn gnome exceeds height regulations. I blinked. It's 6 inches tall. Regulations say 5. She actually had a tape measure. That night, I replaced the gnome with a small sign that read, this lawn complies with the Karen Ordinance Section Petty 101. The next day, another pink slip. But I didn't take it down. Instead, I took a photo of her measuring it. Because this time I wasn't just playing defense. I was waiting for her to break one more rule, and she always did. The HOA thought they could push people around with fine print and fear. But they forgot. I read every line of that fine print. And Karen was about to pay dearly for ignoring the bold ones. The night after the gnome incident, Karen filed a noise complaint against me. According to the letter, my excessive late-night lawn care was disturbing the peace. I don't even own outdoor lights. That's when I realized she was just fabricating reports now. So I set a trap. I installed a motion-activated security camera pointing at my lawn. A cheap one from Amazon, but good enough. 2 nights later, boom. Footage showed Karen and Todd walking across my property with flashlights, whispering and pointing at random spots in the grass. I saved the footage, then emailed it to the HOA board with the subject line: Evidence of trespassing, Article 6, Section 3. Within hours, chaos erupted. The vice president called me personally, apologizing. "This isn't what the HOA stands for," he said nervously. I replied calmly, "Then you might want to stand for something soon, because I'm forwarding this to the city." Karen showed up the next morning pretending nothing happened. "Good morning, Mr. Parker. Lovely day." "Sure is," I said, "for catching trespassers." Her smile faltered. I watched her retreat down the sidewalk, clipboard shaking slightly. By that evening, the neighborhood group chat was buzzing with memes. Karen peeking through bushes, labeled HOA Surveillance Division. It was the first time the community laughed with me instead of at me. And that laughter would soon turn into full-blown rebellion. Within a week, the HOA's reputation tanked faster than Todd's credit score after the impound fees. Everyone was fed up: Steve, Linda, even the Johnsons, who used to worship Karen's rules. We started holding alternative meetings on Steve's porch. No clipboards, no fines, just snacks and solidarity. Linda printed flyers titled, "Reclaim the Ridge, Freedom from Flamingos." Karen, of course, panicked. She sent a mass email claiming we were forming an illegal coalition. That only made more people join. When she tried to shut us down, someone replied all with a meme of her flamingo wearing a crown. The subject line: Queen of Contradictions. The best part? I didn't have to do much. Karen's overreactions did all the work. Then came the petition, signed by over half the homeowners, to call for a vote of no confidence in her leadership. The board couldn't ignore it. Todd tried to intimidate me again, muttering about parking accidents and revenge. But this time 2 other neighbors stepped between us. Karen had lost her army. She still strutted around like a dictator, refusing to admit the war was over. But the night before the big board meeting, something poetic happened. Her precious flamingo display, every single one of them, went missing. No one ever claimed responsibility, but rumor has it, they were relocated to Todd's impounded SUV at the city lot. Poetic justice in pink plastic. The next HOA meeting was standing room only. The entire neighborhood came. Phones out, recording everything. Karen walked in wearing a bright red suit, clutching her clipboard like a shield. She started with her usual speech about community standards and decorum. Then I stood up. "Karen, before we discuss decorum, I'd like to present a short video." The projector lit up. The footage played. Karen and Todd sneaking across my lawn, measuring my gnome, whispering conspiracies. The room gasped. Then Steve chimed in. "Also check the finances." Linda handed out printed spreadsheets showing Karen's unauthorized expenses. Karen stammered. Those were aesthetic improvements. The vice president cleared his throat. "You spent HOA funds on flamingo ornaments." Laughter erupted. Someone actually clapped. The board voted 3-0 for immediate removal of Karen Brooks as HOA president. Her face went blank, then red, then blank again. "You'll regret this," she snapped. "Maybe," I said. "But at least my grass is free." The meeting ended with cheers, relief, and the sound of a clipboard hitting the trash can. For the first time in years, our neighborhood felt human again. And my lawn? Untouched, beautiful, and gloriously petty. Just when I thought the saga was over, fate decided to deliver one last gift. Todd came banging on my door. "You did this." "My car's gone again." I blinked. Again. Turns out, after months of unpaid impound fees, the city auctioned off his SUV. Someone else bought it, complete with Karen's flamingos still stuffed inside the trunk. He was livid. "You ruined my life." I stayed calm. "You ruined my lawn." He stormed off, shouting curses that echoed down the street. Later that week, the new HOA president, Steve, sent me a friendly note. "Thank you for standing up to tyranny. You've inspired us all." It came with a $50 Home Depot gift card and a note: "For lawn repair or victory decorations." I laughed for a full minute. Karen moved out a month later. Todd followed soon after. Now every time I mow, I look at my spotless grass and smile. Because sometimes justice doesn't come from anger. It comes from patience, paperwork, and knowing exactly when to make that one perfect call. With Karen gone and Todd's SUV permanently exiled to auction land, the neighborhood felt different. Kids played outside again. People waved at each other. Even the Johnsons painted their fence without waiting for approval. It was suburban anarchy, and it was beautiful. Steve, now the new HOA president, promised transparency. No more hidden meetings, no more ridiculous fines. He even set up a shared Google Drive with all the bylaws. I smiled reading through it, seeing all the absurdities Karen had once weaponized. I decided to plant a small row of daisies where Todd's tire marks had scarred my lawn. My wife joked it was where peace finally grew. Then one morning I found an envelope in my mailbox. No return address. Inside was a note written in perfect cursive. You think you've won, but rules never die. Tibby. I actually laughed. Karen had gone full movie villain. I posted it in the group chat. Within minutes, neighbors replied with memes. Karen's face photoshopped onto Darth Vader, holding a flamingo lightsaber. Peace had finally taken root, and humor watered it daily. But deep down I knew Karen wasn't done. People like her never quit. They just wait for the next meeting. It started subtly. A new resident moved into Karen's old house. A relative named Brenda, who just happened to wear the same shade of lipstick and carried a clipboard. Everyone noticed, of course. Steve joked. Karen reincarnated? Brenda introduced herself at the next HOA gathering. I'm just here to observe, she said sweetly. By week 2, observe meant measuring fences and writing notes. Then came her first email blast. Friendly reminder. Decorative rocks must match neutral tones. It was like Karen had uploaded her soul into Brenda's Gmail account. The neighbors started sending me screenshots with captions like, Karen 2.0 has entered the chat. I didn't engage at first. I'd learned that direct confrontation only fuels the clipboard cult. Instead, I waited. Soon enough, Brenda made the same mistake. Her unapproved backyard pergola appeared on the HOA cameras. Steve double-checked records. No permits. He sent her a violation notice, worded exactly how Karen used to send them. Brenda was furious. You can't find me. I'm just. Steve interrupted, smiling. Observing? Consider this field research. The neighbors roared with laughter. Brenda moved out 2 weeks later. The day she left, someone replaced Karen's old mailbox plaque with one that read, Here lies the clipboard queen, 2016 to 2025. No one took credit. But we all smiled. To celebrate the HOA finally returning to sanity, we held a massive neighborhood barbecue. No fines, no rules, no permission slips. Just burgers, laughter, and a bounce house that would have given Karen a stroke. Steve gave a little speech. For too long, fear ruled Maple Ridge. But thanks to one stubborn man and his lawn, we're free. Everyone clapped, and I'll admit, I teared up a little. Linda handed me a gift. A small gold-plated gnome. On its base, engraved words read, To Mr. Parker, defender of grass and sanity. It was ridiculous but somehow perfect. Todd's old driveway sat empty, weeds starting to grow through the cracks. The new family who moved in planted flowers instead of parking there. A poetic trade. Later that night, under string lights, I looked at my pristine yard and thought about everything that happened. All that drama, all that noise just because one man parked where he shouldn't. It wasn't about grass anymore. It was about standing your ground, even when the world around you's built on nonsense. And sometimes justice looks like a tow truck in the moonlight. That changed everything. Months later, I got a letter from the city. An invitation to a community mediation seminar. Apparently, my HOA saga had become a case study on conflict resolution. The city wanted me to speak. Me, the guy who once battled a flamingo-obsessed tyrant with nothing but screenshots and sarcasm. I almost said no, but then I thought about all those people still dealing with their own Karens out there. So I went. I stood on stage before 50 strangers and started with, It all began with a Ford Explorer and a patch of grass. The audience laughed. I told them everything, about the fines, the tow, the retaliation, and the sweet satisfaction of paperwork-fueled justice. Afterward, a woman came up to me and said, You gave me hope. My HOA president banned wind chimes. I smiled. Start a folder. That became my running advice. Document everything. Because petty tyrants thrive on silence, and nothing defeats them faster than receipts. A year later, Maple Ridge is thriving. The lawns are still neat, but now they're lived on. Kids run barefoot, neighbors laugh, and no one fears surprise pink envelopes. The HOA's new motto, chosen by vote, reads, "Rules serve people, not the other way around." It's printed on the entrance sign. I see it every morning when I drive to work. My lawn is perfect, not because I'm scared of fines, but because I want it to be. Sometimes I still find small reminders. A single pink envelope slipped under my mat. A plastic flamingo left on my porch. Probably jokes from the neighbors. I keep them all in a box labeled Trophies of Peace. Every so often I sit outside, coffee in hand, watching the sunlight hit the grass where this whole war began. And I smile. Because in the end it wasn't about lawns, rules, or even revenge. It was about reminding everyone, especially the Karens of the world, that respect grows best on well-tended ground.